Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the chapter 4 of the book Principle of Economics of Gregory Mankiw, the market forces of supply and demand. So we have to talk about competitive markets. So before that we need to understand what is the definition of a market. A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. So there is one part there are the buyers which determine the demand. On the other side, we have the sellers. They determine the supply. So the competitive market, the particular characteristic is that there are many buyers and many sellers. So there is no power in the market for anyone. What does it mean? It means that there is no influence for the part from the buyers or from the sellers. They cannot change the price because there are too much, so they don't have incidence in the price of the market. So in this case, we are talking more the competition. So we are talking about the competition, which is the perfect competition. Okay, and I'm going to mention other two types: oligopoly and monopoly. So what is the characteristic of perfectly competitive market that we are going to analyze first, because they are easier to analyze? So there are two main characteristics. The goods being offered for sale are all the same. There are homogeneous goods inside the market. The other one, the second, is the buyers and sellers are so numerous and that no single buyer or seller can influence the market price. Okay, so they must accept the price the market determines, and they are said to be price takers. So as we said before, in competitive market, without talking about perfectly, uh, the both sides they cannot influence the price. So the otherwise they are the monopoly, where there is just one seller. As an example, we have the water supplier for the city, usually it's just one company. And oligopoly, fewer sellers. In this case, like cell phone, the companies, mobile companies, as usual, they are not too much inside a country. And there is another that we are talking about the competitive market, but they are monopolistically competitive. So they have the same characteristic, many sellers and many buyers, but there is like each offering is slightly different. So like the restaurant, everybody sells lunch, but they have different product. So this is more related with the real life. But in order to be like easier, in order to understand better the idea, we are going to talk during this chapter, and mostly all the course we're going to talk basically in perfectly competitive markets. So here we're going to study one part, which is the demand, the buyers. So the quantity demanded is the amount of the good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. So what determines the quantity and individual demands? So the demand, there is like basically several factors that affect the quantity demanded. So okay, I just repeated the same. So here, for example, the first is the price. So if we are talking generally, so we know that if the price rises, you would consume less because you don't have more money to buy this good. But in the other side, if the price fell, you would buy more. So you're attracted because the price is lower. What about, for example, the day that you have discounts, you buy more. Okay, so the quantity is demanded is negatively related to the price. This is the law of demand. Okay, The other characteristic that determine the individual demand is the income. Lower income means you consume less. When you have like lower salary, you consume less beer, maybe less expensive restaurants, maybe food in kind of way. So we can say that this is normal good. Maybe we're talking about the, yeah, this kind of good, like beers for example, in order to say something. So there is other case where the income goes up, you consume less, so this is considered an inferior good. So this could be the case as the bus ride, so maybe you receive more money, more salary, so you demand less bus and you start to take more taxi. So it could be the case. Price of related goods. So, for example, if we are talking about ice creams, that we are going to talk a little bit about them. So, price of frozen yogurt falls. So it means that these are called substitutes goods. So, so in this case, when the price of these falls, it means that you are going to eat more frozen yogurt. So you are going to eat or consume less ice cream. So they are called substitutes good. Okay. So for example, in the other case, when you have like hot fudge increases, and maybe you consume both the same quantity, you eat an ice cream, you add hot fudge. So in this case we are talking about complements, okay, because you always eat or you consume together. The other case is tastes. This is like the most obvious. So you consume because you like. So if you like more ice cream, you can buy more. So it depends on tastes. And expectations. So imagine that you expect that your contract is to finish. So remember, you have like the deadline this month because your boss said to you, "Hey man, I'm so sorry, but I think you are going to be fired." So now you know the next month you will have less income, so you consume less currently. Okay, or for example, if you know, for example, on Black Friday that the price is going to be discounted, you wait and you don't buy today, you expect tomorrow to the Black Friday, to the discount. Okay, so here we're going to start to put numbers in order to represent the demand curve. So here, forget the table for a moment. So the first and important thing that economists will think about it's about Ceteris Paribus. So when we analyze something, we need to we have to hold the other variables constant. So in this case, we hold all the variables constant except one, which is the price. So imagine that we are talking about Maria, and if the price is free, they say, okay, the hamburger is free, so take whatever you want. So she will eat 12 hamburgers, is here. But when the price is 50 cents, she will buy 10. When the price is 1, she will buy 8. When the price, and so on and so forth. So this is the demand schedule for Maria. So with this demand schedule, we can represent this in graph. So we just put here, usually we put in the y-axis, we put the price, and on the x-axis we put the hamburgers. So we have 0, 3. So with the price of $3, Maria is not going to consume anything. At the price of 2.50, she's going to consume 2 hamburgers. The price of $2 for 1.56, 1.8, 0.50 cents, 10, and with the 0 price 12. So this is the demand curve, and we realize that is downward slope. Okay, so this is the law of demand. Okay, that we said before, the price the higher, the less you consume. Okay, so here we as I said before about the Ceteris Paribus, is that the case because it assumes that income, tastes, expectations, and the prices of related products are not changing. So we are just analyzing pricing because it's so hard to think about the other changes in the world. So you cannot analyze. So in this case, we are just focused on price. So in this case, all the relevant variables except those being studied at that moment are held constant. Okay, so what we already saw the demand of Maria. Okay, but what about the market demand? So the market demand is the sum of all the individual, all the Marias demands for a particular good or service. So in this case, oops, I did something wrong here. Okay, sorry, I did something wrong. Going back to the end of the presentation. That's why we're in, okay, we're okay. So in this case, we're talking about the market demand. So Maria's curve, remember. So we have here the price and the quantity of Maria. So you have 3. Remember that we already did it. Okay, which is this one. And now imagine there is another case, which is the name is Peter. So the price of 3, he okay at the price of 2 of 0 of 3 he's going to consume anything. At the price of 250 he's going to consume 2. At the price of 2 he's going to consume 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we have his demand curve. So now we are going to figure out about the market demand. So we need to sum in the x-axis. So in this case we have 2, which is the price. So it's going to consume 4 quantities of Maria and 3 quantities of Peter. So in the market they're going to be consumed 7. Okay, they're going to be demand 7. We continue the 3. You see no one consumes anything. Okay, so in this case no one consumes, so we have 0 for the 3. For the case of 250 we have 2 for Maria and 2 for Peter, so it's going to be 4. For the case of $1.50 we have 6 in the case of Maria and 4 for Peter, so we have 10. And for 1 we have 5 for Maria, 5 for Peter, and 8 for Maria, so we have 13. And the last one is going to be 50 cents, which is going to be 6 for Maria, 6 for Peter, and 10 for Maria. So we have in this case, let me think about it, is 6 and 10, sorry, here is 16. Okay, and the other case is going to be 19. So this is the market demand. Remember, here is not 17, here is 6 plus 6, 10 plus 6, which is 17, which is 16, sorry. Okay, that's it. So now we're going to think about shifts in the demand curve. So let's put an example. Imagine that recent discovery is more and says a newspaper in an article. It says eat more hamburgers because it's good for live longer. So maybe we can think about the recent increasing in tastes. So at any given price, buyers now want to purchase large in quantity. So this is considered an increase in demand. So it's going to be shift to the left. In the other case, imagine the hamburger say maybe it's going to be a big disease. So in this case, it is going to be a decrease in demand. It's going to be D3. So these are the shifts in the demand curve. So when we talk about movement along the demand curve, is because just change in price. But shifts in the demand curve are given because of income, prices of related goods, tastes, expectations, a number of buyers. Okay, that's it. So now we're going to think about a little bit about the shift and movement in the demand curve. So we are in the case of alcohol. So imagine that this is the demand for alcohol, and it goes to this. Why? Because there is a public policy. There is a bunch of messages on TV, on YouTube, on internet that they are saying they are attacking, or they are making, for example, in the schools that are working more in this aspect. So we realize how the demand curve shift to the left. Okay, so in this case, this was the price and the quantity that they were demanded before, and now those are the quantities at this price. Okay, at the same price there is a decrease in the quantities. What about the shift in the demand curve? Now imagine, what about the movement along the demand curve? So given a tax, so the government fix a tax, fix a tariff, so the price increases and the quantities decrease. So if you see here with the shift movement, there is at the same price, there is a reduction of the quantities, but in this case is a higher price, lower quantities. Okay, this is a movement on the demand curve, and there is a shift. Okay, now we are going to talk little bit about the other side. So it is the supply. So the supply is the quantity supplied, is the amount that sellers are willing and able to sell. So what determines the quantity and individual supplies? So the price. So for example, in the ice cream case again, when the price of an ice cream is high, then it's more profitable to sell. The price and quantity is positively related to the price of the good. This relationship is called the law of supply. Okay, so there is positive relation of price and quantities, and remember with the demand it was the opposite. There is another which determine the quantity of individual supplies is the input prices. So, for example, in ice cream there are machines, labor for the workers, cream, sugar, flavoring, etc. So when the price of one of more of these inputs rises, producing is less profitable and the supply decreases. So this is negatively related. The other case is technology. So imagine, for example, there is it's automatized the process of ice cream, of producing the ice cream. So it's going to be a big save on time. So this is going to be some improvement. Okay, so the supply is going to shift. They're going to change. Okay. So expectations. So if the supplier they expect that the price of ice cream will increase, then they supply less today because they know that tomorrow is going to be an increase of the price. Okay, now we're going to talk about as the demand schedule, we can represent the same case with the supply schedule as well. So we have the same case. We hold all the variables constant and we just focus on the price. So here at we are talking about hamburgers again. So when the price is below to 1, there is no production. Okay, at this price the supplier just say this price I'm not going to produce anything. But when the price is 3, sorry, here is not, here is like the replication of the demand. Don't pay attention to that. When it is 3, the supplier is going to supply 5 hamburgers. So given the supply schedule, we can represent the same case for in the quotation plane. So we have here, so we have the price of $1, the supply is going to produce 1. At the 150 is going to produce 2. At the price of 2 is going to produce 3. and at the price of 250 is going to produce 4, and 5 for $3. So here is the supply curve. As you see, it is upward slope. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, like, analogously to the demand curve, that we talk about the market demand versus the market demand versus the individual demand. So in this case, we're going to talk about the market supply. So we have here the first supplier that we already saw before. So we have here the case. Okay, we already know about that. So after knowing this case, we're going to talk about the supplier 2. This is supplier 2, sorry. So imagine that there is the case where at the price of 150 is going to offer a supply of 2. At the price of 2 is going to offer 4. At the price of 250, he's going to offer 6. And at the price of 3, he's going to offer 8. So here is the other. Okay, now given that we're going to add up all these both demand supply curves, we are going to sum them in the same way. So here we have the first. So when the price is 0.50 for both sides, the market supply, we are not going to produce anything. Okay, for the other case, when we have $1, in this case, this is going just to produce supplier 1, so it's going to be 1 supplied. For the price of 150, is going to be 1 for the supplier 1, it's going to be 0 for the supplier 2. In this case, it's going to be 2 for the supplier 1, which is this one, and it's going to be 1 for this. For 2 again, for this one is going to be 4. For the price of 2 is going to be 3 for the supplier 1, it's going to be 4 for the supplier 2, so it's going to be 7. Okay, for the third case, it's going to be 6 for the supplier 2 and 4 for the supplier 1, so it's going to be 10. And the last one, which is the price 3, there's going to be supplied in the market 13 units. So this one is the market. So here we're going to talk about the shifts in the supply curve. So here we see the red one when there is a decrease in supply, and the green one when there is an increase in supply. So we know about movement along the supply curve, which is the same as the demand. So it's going to be just the price. But when there is a shift in the supply curve, if you realize, is the same case is what determines the supply curve. So in this case, it's going to be given because input prices, technology, expectations, or the number of sellers. Okay, so now together supply and demand. So we have here hamburgers market and quantities. We have here the demand, you are here the supply. So here is known as the price of equilibrium, the quantity of equilibrium, and this is the equilibrium where each part is completely satisfied. All that is offered at this price is sold. Okay, everything. So at the equilibrium price, the quantity of the good that buyers are willing and able to buy exactly balances the quantity that sellers are willing and able to sell. So both parts fine. So why the quantities or the buyers and sellers they arrive to the equilibrium? Because if we think about surplus and shortage, imagine the first case. So we are in the first case, which is this one. So here is the demand, okay, and imagine that the price is given by this. Okay, this is not the equilibrium price, this is just the price. Okay, imagine that this is the price. So it means that the quantities that are supplied are higher than the demand at this price. Because it's so high, the demand, they just going to consume this part, but because of the price so high, the suppliers are going to offer this. So it's going to be the surplus. So why we arrive again to the equilibrium? Because at this price, the suppliers, they realize that this price is so high, so they go down until they sell all what they have, okay, because at this time they have too much stock. So this is called the surplus, okay, this excess of supply. In the other case, we have the same, because demand supply, but if you see here, the price is lower than the equilibrium price. So in this case, because the price is so low, the demand part they're going to consume a lot, okay. But on the other side, because the price is so low, given that the suppliers they're going to offer just like low quantities, so it's going to be called, this part is going to be excess demand, so this is a shortage, okay. So in this case it's going to be shortage. So because of the price is small, so low, and they still can sell more, so they are going to go up until the equilibrium price, okay, because at this there is like shortage, so they can produce, they can sell like a higher price. So now we want to change the I'm going to explain a little bit about the change in demand and supply. So imagine there is a large increase in demand and a small decrease in supply. So here you see here that the supply, there is a small decrease, as you figure out here. S2 there is decreasing, so it's like to shift to the left. In the other case, there is a large, this is the regional price, well, V1 and S1, this is the equilibrium. But with this is this is a small decrease supply, and the other part is a large increase in demand. So we have here that this is the demand too. So why is devoted this increase in demand? So imagine about the taste, right? So people like more hamburgers in this case. So we have like a big increase. And here is a small decrease in supply because there is a little problem, weather problem. So it's going to be a little decrease in supply. So in this case, we pass from Q1 to Q2, and the price we pass from P1 to P2. So this is the case. You see how it changes. Why I show that? Because when there is the same changes, but there is a small increase in demand and large decrease in supply, is going to change definitely different. So in this case, we have the quantity of hamburgers is here, and this is the quantity one and price one. But there is as I said before, there is a large decrease in supply. There was a big torment, a big problem, a big weather problem. So for example, with the coast. So in this case, it's going to be this the decrease, and it's going to be a small increase in demand, because at the same time maybe discover that the meat of the hamburgers is good. So maybe it's going to be a small increase in demand. So at this point you see that the quantities they are reduced. So why I put that? Because maybe when there is an increase in demand and decrease in supply, we just make sure that the price is going to be high, but the quantities they can go up or they can go down. So there is an ambiguous effect on quantities. So here I put all the summarize all the changes. Maybe when you read something, you will review this part. When there is no change in supply, no change in demand, it's going to be P, which is the price, and quantities are going to remain the same. And then an increase in supply and no change in demand is going to be price is going to down, and the quantities are going to go up. Here, when there is an decrease in supply and no change in demand, the price is going to go up and the quantities are going to go down. So this is basically a summary of all changes. I hope it has worth great success with economics. See you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.